Against the Ropes podcast.
Contra las cuerdas.
Against the Ropes podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. AtR podcast. Gio Garcia here. I'm alongside Christian Mosqueda. And we have a special guest, man. We had him recently as well. Coach Trevor Sambrano, man. Welcome back. Congratulations on the big win on that Canelo undercard.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It's always good to come back as a winner.
So let me start, Coach, by saying, obviously, you guys got, a big opportunity, the rematch. On one of the biggest nights of boxing. Me and Gio call it the biggest event of this year thus far. I don't see anything topple it. But again, tough assignment. You guys did your thing. I feel like you guys shocked a lot of us. Can you talk to me about, obviously, just this feeling walking away with a huge victory, and then we'll talk about the game plan that you guys employed.
I mean, look. Obviously, when you get a win like that, you're going to be on cloud nine. None of us can go to sleep. I know Brandon couldn't go to sleep. We kind of bothered each other at like 5:30 in the morning. Like, hey, are you still up? Yeah, I'm still up. And then, of course, we actually drove this big Sprinter van there that was provided to us by Fightbook. So we're still talking about it and going through it and processing it. And that's a whole nother thing, because like anybody else, when you accomplish something like that, especially the way that went down, it's an amazing feeling. As far as the night is concerned, I think it's probably one of the biggest cards that we've seen in the last 10 years. You look at maybe something like Paul and Tyson, but that's not really for us. That's not for the boxing fans. That's not for the boxing purists. And that's not for the people that really generally love the sport. So I think this is probably the biggest fight since Floyd and Canelo. So yeah, man, what a historical win. You want to talk about our approach? Their first fight, oh gosh, Brandon was handicapped, as Sergey was too, as what we talked about in the last podcast, because it was during COVID and they were spraying down the canvas and it was so wet. They were spraying it down with some sort of like disinfectant or whatever it was. They're actually doing every break. So, and then to top of that off with it being in Puerto Rico and dealing with humidity. So it's like, a trifecta of probably not ideal results. And you got them slipping and sliding all over each other. Brandon ended up finding his positioning that night, which was very difficult, and he caught Sergey and he put him to sleep. In both of the camps' heads, it had to be a variable out there where they kept, thinking, hey, maybe Brandon got a lucky shot. And their, Sergey's team, I'm sure with Manny and them, they thought that Sergey couldn't be at his best and would never happen with a good canvas. But I don't think what they took into account is that perhaps they hadn't really seen Brandon. It was a bit of a Brandon is such a talented fighter. He can do so many different things. People are used to seeing kind of a slick version of Brandon, Floyd Mayweather type Brandon. But during the camp, we kept on joking that he was going to be Brandon Better Beef and Cannon Duran, Roberto Duran, and that we were going to walk him down. And I remember telling people, they're like, "Oh, what are you talking about? You're going to walk down Sergey?" And anybody that's boxed, like trainers will tell you this, like you're usually afraid of the style that gives you the hardest problems. Like, and that's kind of the style that you end up adopting. Maybe if you first start boxing and you run across a boxer and you just box your brains out, you're like thinking, man, I really want to learn how to do that because that's going to be my process to get another fighter. Or if you walk across a pressure fighter or somebody really throws in a lot of combinations, you think, man, I need to deal with that because I can see how overwhelming it is to me. And Brandon, because he is so multifaceted, I don't think that people knew that he could be Brandon Betterbeef. And the plan was to put Sergey on his back foot, and the plan was to take the fight to Sergey. It's certainly worked out. It was hard for me to give a round to Sergey. Two judges had it 9-1, another judge had it 8-2. We're coming in as the B side. I think Vegas had us down like -400. I heard even as high as -500. We're deeply the underdog. And to go out there and have a performance like that, it all came together.
Yeah, when I was watching the fight, and I told you this before we started, I was like, the first round or two, I was like, whoa, what is Brandon doing? And then I saw that it was working. I was like, okay, it's working. Was that something that you guys knew right away? We're going to go toe to toe, or did you think, let's box first round, 2, 3, see how he's feeling these punches? What was the game plan there?
What you saw was definitely what we practiced. I mean, we practiced. I brought in, this kid from TJ. I don't know his name, but he's being trained by Canelo team, and we sparred him over at House of Boxing. He's a 175 pounder. We were sparring up. We sparred another 175 pounder. I do know Ruben Cazares, the kid that was in DMG, another really big kid. We sparred a kid that was 160 pounder that is getting moved by Don King. We sparred up the whole time, big men, big tall men, with the whole intent that Brandon barely boxed with these guys. I mean, he has his moments where he boxes and you can see he mixes it up, but we really worked on taking the fight to you and walking you down. Yeah, we had a little bit of a strategy, which was like, and Brandon and I talked about in the back, which was like, are we going to box a little bit, make him miss? But I also told Brandon, I said, ultimately, you're going to be in there, like you're going to do what you feel. Like you have to trust your instincts. If you crack him and all of a sudden you see that he's not wearing the shot well, what am I going to say? Oh, hey, don't do that. Don't do that. Back off. No, I want you to feel yourself, and especially as a process of the fighter, the trainer's not in there. I'm the second pair of eyes that's witnessing it as it goes down. You're, as a fighter, you're the first person in there, and you're processing all this stuff. You're calibrating all this stuff, and you're coming to your own conclusions. Believe it or not, within the 45 seconds of the first round, I looked at, the guy that I had in my corner. He's our strength and conditioning guy, Damon Harris. I said, Damon, we got this fight. I see it. So, I mean, it's just because Sergey, I think, hadn't really felt Brandon yet. Hadn't felt that power.
Now, you guys, Brandon knocked him out in 2021. What kind of made you so confident that this was the right game plan, this was the right style, and that, fighting that style? Obviously, Bochuk is a guy who can crack. That's what his resume reflects, but you guys look confident in there.
I mean, I'm going to be honest with you, and I'll say this thing now. I wouldn't say it before. I think when you look at someone like Boychuk coming out of 360 and Tom Loeffler, I think he's completely coddled. Like, they brought in the right looks for him. I mean, obviously, maybe not with Virgil, but the names that matter to me, which is his most impressive win, was Mendoza. And I think I said that in the last podcast. I never believed in Sergey Boyachuk like that. He's a great fighter. I think that he beats a lot of top names. But as far as him being this Drago-esque, Ukrainian monster that everybody is afraid of, to me, he looked like his best skill was that his work rate, incredibly disciplined kid. He threw a lot of combinations, and he was as tough as nails. But this is a sweet science. Those kind of guys don't last. And when somebody kind of figures them out, they tend to detonate. So I thought, looking at his record, the club shows at Chumash or club shows at Commerce, selective matchmaking, A-side matchmaking, I never thought much of Sergey. In fact, now I don't, Lawrence King had dropped Sergey in sparring with a jab. I mean, and Manny had act like that Sergey was this guy. Oh, you can put him in with Lawrence, and Lawrence literally dropped him with a jab. And I'd seen Sergey be very submissive towards Lawrence. I mean, in some ways too, I knew that this kid already had a submissive streak in him. Not that he showed it like that, but this is just me being honest. I'm a boxing guy. I'm a competitor. I could tell you one way or another, but I wasn't sold on his record like that. I do think he's as tough as nails. A lot of guys are tough like that in the past. I mean, Alfredo Angulo comes to mind, who has a style like that gunner style where they let their hands go. But they all have those moments where you sort of you see them go the other way, and Brandon was there to I believe might have changed his career that night. So last weekend.
Chris, real quick, I'm gonna go to some comments. Big Bro says Brandon put the paws on Boachuk. Total domination, says Big Bro. He also says Brandon looked quicker, slicker, and surprisingly much stronger than Boachuk. Our guy Derek checking in. He says Brandon never disappoints.
Yeah, and again, Coach Trev, do you take into account? Obviously, we know that Boachuk was in that tough fight against Virgil Ortiz. As a boxing trainer, do you see that fight? Do you say like, hey, let's keep digging to that body, let's keep punishing him? Is there something that happens to a fighter when they're in those kinds of fights, those very tough fights?
I do. So I mean, that's a very fair question. Did Virgil take some life off of him? Absolutely. I mean, like, I'm not going to be benign to that question. That's yeah. But it's different because I think Sergey also knows that he dropped Virgil twice. Now, one of those, one of them we might argue is a flash, and the other one definitely seemed like a real knockdown. So in his head, in the fighter's head, and the team's head, I think that they felt that they were wronged by that night, and that either should have got a draw or they should have won. And so it's hard for me to hindsight is 2020, right? So it's hard for me to look back at it and say that Sergey was going in there with disbelief. At the weigh-in, Sergey seemed very, very confident. He'd actually said something to Brandon at the weigh-in, insinuating that he couldn't wait to get in the ring with him, and so forth. And I didn't see anything about Sergey that was telling me that he wasn't ready. As far as the matchup stylistically between Virgil and Sergey, listen, Virgil had to watch a little bit of Brandon Adams too, right? I mean, Brandon's the guy that got him out the first time. Virgil had a lot of success with the left hook. Brandon, gets him, hurt with the left hook, right? Eventually gets him out. So it is when you're a trainer, when you're a fighter, and you're looking at those things, there are certain things that we saw Virgil do. I think that Virgil absolutely stood within range with Sergey, stood within the pocket, and showed that it could be done. But I don't think that Virgil backed up Sergey the way that we did. I think that it definitely ducked to the body. If you're looking at the way that we ducked to the body on Sergey, I mean, it's something kind of reminds you of like Archie Moore or some old timer like Hurricane Carter. He really showed his craft. So that's my take on it. It's kind of complicated, but I'm going to give Virgil his props. But I'm also going to say that Virgil probably looked at Brandon's fight.
And there was a moment in the fight where, I think it was the 4th and 5th round. I think all observers, the commentators, everybody was saying Brandon is like teaming up and winning all these rounds. There was a moment in that corner where you told Brandon, "Hey, we're still the B side." The judges could be favoring him, even though you're clearly winning. Was that done intentionally just to keep it real with them, just to plant an even bigger fire in him?
I think it was like I'd seen a little bit of a fade, to be honest, as a trainer. Like I see, you're watching, and there's not a much fade, but there was like a 45 seconds. You're keeping track of these things. You see your fighter kind of turn down a little bit, and you don't want him to do that because you don't want him to get comfortable. I mean, if we were in Sergey's place, we could have did it. Brandon's never been A-side. Brandon's never had the benefit of the doubt. Brandon fought Willie Monroe is I want to say his 7th fight, right? And he had not many amateur fights, I think less than 10. It's totally different careers. One of them has been completely handpicked and coddled, Sergey Boychuk. And then you have Brandon here coming on the B side all the time. And even when he thinks he has an A side agreement, you might have something like, it's so clear to me that Overtime was in business with Cats because David McWaters and overtime or so buddy with each other. I met somebody in the gym today. They're like, "Hey, I'm with Split T. I'm going to be fighting on overtime." So Brandon is truly a B-side. So at that moment when I say, "Hey, B, don't forget that you're a B-side," I'm saying, we're not just fighting. We're fighting the mechanism, man. We're fighting the fact that if you look at, I was only told by TKO that I can have 3 in the corner, but when I look across that corner, I see 5 people with them at Boyachek's team. I was, we're finding a mechanism. We were asked to leave after the fight. Like we were, there was a lot of games that were played that happens with the B side. So when you have a fighter coming on the B side, I mean, that's the purest form of boxing, to go out there on the A side where they've essentially tried to stack as many accumulations of advantages for you to have an off night. So that moment is just me keeping it real with B and saying, "Look, bro, you're the B side. I want you to go out there and get this motherfucker." And that's what he did. So.
And Trevor, again, obviously there's that battle going on between fighters, but there's also the brains going on in each other's corners. Opposite Manny Robles. Obviously, you've been in his gym, and you guys have had fighters spar and exchanged just time. What did it mean for you to go across somebody like a Manny Robles and get a W against them?
I mean, one thing about Manny, and I just be honest, he's been a completely inspiration to me. Okay, like Manny, I remember in 2012, I was the assistant to Jesse Reed. 2011, 2010, Manny at that time was at The Rock. He had a lot of things going on at that time, which were the Olympic trials. He had a young Oscar Valdez. The other kid that got knocked out by oh my God, I'm drawing a blank. Pitbull. You know what I'm talking about? The two brothers, not the Ruelas.
Magdaleno.
Yes, thank you. Okay. He had the kid from Ireland, Quigley. Anyways, he had a real deep stable. Here I am with Jesse Reed, and here Manny's probably about my age, or maybe a little bit older, maybe a little bit younger. I don't know, but we're very close in age. And I'm seeing Manny have his own fighters. I don't have my own fighters at the time. I'm Jesse Reed's assistant. I'm getting him up, maybe working the pads here and there, being told to shut up. But Manny is somebody that I looked up to, man, and I still do. I mean, Manny's one of the most integral parts of the Los Angeles boxing scene. I think the 3 most important people in Southern California are Robert Garcia, Manny Robles, and Freddie Roach. These are places that you can go to anytime and get great work. I mean, it isn't. I'm not gonna be like, "Oh, I beat Manny Robles," whatever. Like look, in any given time, Manny has had a fighter get better, of mine in sparring. I'm just talking about particularly that moment with Sergey and Lawrence. That's nothing. I've had John Cepeda had Manny, and I had a fighter, and he definitely he put it on this fighter. Let me tell you. So it isn't, but it's not like that. But I mean, yeah, it meant more to me knowing that all the heart and soul and passion that we put into Brandon, staying at my house for the camp, us studying film every night, Brandon and I, going to 24-hour fitness at night, Brandon, shadow boxing, Brandon talking about the game plan on the sauna, the jacuzzi, Brandon sparring, Brandon going to the place down the street, Avalanche or Storm, for all of his red light therapy, hyperbaric chamber, lasers, is taking care of his body because he's an aging fighter, and all seeing that come to fruition means a lot. I got the, I look up to Manny. I'm still gonna look at Manny's career, a guy that had the first Mexican, heavyweight champion in the world. Like he's a goddamn legend. So, but when it's like a lot of people, when you get inspired by somebody, if you're really keeping it real, you get inspired by somebody and you want to, mirror them or match their energy. And maybe even one day, hopefully I could do better than he does. I mean, that just means we're a competitor. Last point about something pretty interesting about me and Manny, you'll crack up. Manny was born on April 12th, and I was born on April 12th. And here's another funny thing. Julian Chua was born on April 11th. So wow. What other, you got these 3 Aries, Southern California trainers that actually have fighters in the top 10. And it's a weird thing. But I got nothing but love for Manny, nothing but love for knockouts. Of course, in the moment, it's war, but, this is somebody that generally has inspired me. So
Hey, I got a couple questions. I got a couple questions. Talking about war. Talk about that moment where the ref came over, warned you guys for low blows,
yeah.
and
Okay.
you had some words for Trevor.
Okay. So the referee did not warn me for low blows. So
Okay.
this is Manny Robles had got inside of the ring and had said, "Hey, Brandon, stop with all the low blows."
Okay.
And I had replied, "Pay attention to your effing corner. Let the ref do his job." Right? Look, one of the things that in Puerto Rico was that we'd already know that Sergey couldn't take it to the body because every time Brandon had hit him in Puerto Rico, and then we'd seen this also with the Virgil fight, because there's a heavy investment on the body, and sometimes such an investment on the body that Brandon would catch them to the head. But we continued to keep the chin tucked, keep it in tight to the shoulder as much as possible, and continue to invest in that body at all costs because we felt that was the way to get Sergey. We had told the referee, he goes, "Hey, is there anything you need to worry about?" I said, "Yeah, the one thing I think I'm very important is I believe that Sergey Boychuk wears his trunks pretty high." I even joked that they were like Urkel. And and I said that in the first team that the first fight, the team should have got an Oscar because they complained about every body shot. And the referee says, "Don't worry, I got you. I'll look out for it." And when he came in and was complaining about the body shots, he continued to complain about it. And that's when I had that moment. And gosh, it was like around the fifth round, the referee comes over to me and says, "Hey, man, don't listen to anything they're saying. I'm watching all of them. They're the belt line. The only ones I've seen go low is when he's pushing Brandon's head down." So, and sometimes it's a referee from Minnesota. I don't remember his name. I wish I could, but he's a pretty stand-up guy. I met him in the casino afterwards. But yeah, I mean, shit. It's also like, obviously I would never tell that to Manny in any other context of us being in the heart of a fight like that, which I believe is a classic. Like the most beautiful thing about this fight, if you're a boxing guy, is that you can go back and look at it probably 2, 3, 5, 6 years from now. If for Brandon, I told this to Brandon, to have a fight that you can study from start to finish, especially if you're looking to attack to the body. The people that lead those kind of fights, a Chavez, people that are really just like a body, Mike McCallum's another guy that comes to mind that really just get out to the body. Yeah, it's something that's going to be on YouTube forever. So if you're a young guy, you want to learn how to break down the body, Brandon Adams versus Sergey Boychuk.
Thanks for clarifying that. Obviously, we don't get the full audio, when we're watching on TV, but that's kind of what it seemed like, especially us knowing that the odds were supposed to be against you guys, in all the senses. But also clarify one thing for me, please. I started seeing a lot of reports that were saying that Brandon won the bonus of the night. Is that true?
Yeah, that's true. Brandon won the bonus of the night. We're very happy. Brandon deserves it. Certainly, it seemed like this might have been the performance of his career. I mean, like I said, it was an incredible night. We're very, maybe we were treated like a B-side, but in the context of what TKO did that night and Zuffa and Dana and certainly Turkey, we want to thank them. And gosh, what a blessing. What a blessing for Brandon. And, the likelihood that we go on and do something in Riyadh in the future has exponentially gone up. And we're very thankful. And to be honest with you, I've never seen that happen in boxing before. And, just imagine that you get an extra 100K on top of what you already earned. It's it's a little bit more than a cherry on top. So
nice. Shout out to you guys, man. You guys said you were going to do that, have the performance of the night, and
yes,
you did it.
Just because stylistically it's like those two were going to make a great fight. Yeah, I think would make a great fight is Virgil and Brandon Adams. I just in my head, like as a boxing purist, because like I love boxing, like I just love this shit, And I look at the style matchups and I look at what they're both capable of. And just like I just think it would just be an incredible gift. It might be like when James Toney fought Mike McCallum, like, just an incredible Miguel Cotto with Floyd, but just a fight that you can go back on and just like really gestate, and that's going to, stand the test of time. You'll be able to look at 20 years just because their skill sets, particularly on the inside, their craft, their ability to box, the fact that they are so multifaceted, the fact that they have so many variables, shit, you know. And those are the kind of fights I want to be involved in. I'm not saying that something crazy here that go dominate Virgil Ortiz, but Robert Garcia has an incredible mind. Papa Garcia, I'm a fan. Look, I'm a fan of Robert. Robert was an incredible fighter. I've watched Robert fight a million times. To be honest with you, he's one of my favorite Garcia brothers. Between him and Mikey, not disrespect to Mikey, I love watching Robert fight. He was insanely good. I thought obviously things were going on. I was trained by Gennaro Chicanito Hernandez. Gennaro had spent a lot of time with Robert Garcia. I used to hear Robert Garcia on the speakerphone with Gennaro all the time when he was still alive. And, it's just a long history of a really good boxing family. And you see that pedigree in Virgil. Virgil's been other places, he's been with Manny too, but I really like the Virgil that I'm seeing today. And I just think that, like, from a boxing fan's perspective and a trainer's perspective, those are the kind of fights I want to be involved in. Like, that would just be an insanely dope fight. I think that it would be a gift of boxing, and that's kind of what we need right now. So, Turkey, if you're listening to us, I know that he's got Erickson Lubin out there. I expect him to handle Erickson Lubin not with ease, but pretty efficiently. But yeah, we would love to get a shot at Virgil. I just think it would be a great fight.
Real quick quiz before we go to your questions. But let me tell you, Trevor, I think they kind of fumbled this because this could have been the perfect co-main event, man. The way, like you said, stylistically, those fans would have been so happy. Like, I couldn't believe that it was on the prelims on YouTube. I was watching it with a group of friends here at home, and we had a whole carne asada. And honestly, I didn't even eat until after the fight, and I was starving. But I was glued to the TV, and I was like, shit, I can't stop watching this fight. It was beautiful. So, yeah, again, congrats for that. And I think they kind of fumbled it, man. Obviously, no disrespect to the guys in the co-main, but this would have been the perfect co-main event for this type of event. 70,000 people at that stadium. They're reporting 41 million viewers on Netflix. That would have been insane, man.
Yeah, I think I feel a little bit the same way. I don't feel bad about it just because things happen for a reason. But I mean, those two. So there's rumors about fight of the year between Sergey and Brandon. So it really was a battle of the wills. It's not like Brandon dominated Sergey, but between you and I on a podcast. But look, I didn't ask Brandon to try to get Sergey out of there until really the 10th round, maybe the 9th. I was very Sergey's balance. He stayed dangerous. He stayed so aware. He stayed throwing. After he was getting caught with big shots, the will of that guy is just like he's got a man. I mean, the Sergey's will is like insanely old school. Some of the shots he took, and as a trainer, I'm gonna always default to safety first because as a guy like Boyacek can punch. He's got 24 knockouts out of 26 wins, and I'm not gonna go in there recklessly and get him just because we heard him a couple of times. And I kind of heard that, you guys can get him out of there, and I'm thinking like, man, I'm sitting there in that corner reading every moment of Sergey's body language. I see him get bothered, and all of a sudden come back to life. See him get bothered, come back to life. And yeah, I mean, it's like shit. But yeah, I felt that we were very dominant, but so it would have been great as a co-main, though. I agree.
And just to piggyback off of Gio, Trev, the commentators said themselves during the fight, they're like, I wish all the fans were here to see this, 70,000, and so yeah, just to piggyback about the commentators themselves said that they wish the stadium was full to see that fight. Trev, I gotta ask, obviously everybody felt that he won, everybody that was watching the fight, the prelims, everybody, even the commentators there in attendance, but obviously the judges have the last say. At what moment were you like, okay, I know we won? Was it when you heard the first card, or when was the exact moment that you're like, okay?
Man, I'm pretty jaded by boxing, bro. I've seen it all. You're always scared. I mean, shit, especially for I've been involved with every trainer is going to get involved with B-sides. So, like, you get a young prospect that can't sell tickets, he's going B-side. So or you might have a kid that's fighting a star and you really want your kid to fight that star. he's going to go B-side. We've said yes with Lawrence King, for example, multiple times where he would have been the B-side, but David Morrell, he was supposed to be the B-side with David Morrell. We said yes. We shook hands with it, Beverly Hills Hotel. That didn't happen. Said yes to Anthony Yard. That didn't happen. Said yes to Willie Hutchinson, Joseph Papaloni. The list goes on. So I would say that you get afraid of the mechanism. And that's what I'm sort of talking about, which is like, that's something I kept on telling Brandon before. I said, Brandon, don't forget that the minute you step in that ring, you're already down 3 rounds. And I truly believe that. So that was the comment. Hey, don't forget your B-side, because that was to fire him up. That was to keep reaffirming and keeping that belief going, because you just never know. So once all the scores got called, then I could exhale. But yeah, boxing's yeah, you gotta be careful, man. You never know. I thought we won the OTX. The commentator said, I knew it was close, but there's no way, there's no high. The funny thing about overtime, and overtime actually ran into me out there, and they're like, hey, can you stop talking about us? I'm like, no, never. Never going to stop talking about you, Britain Harden. So I said, listen, we couldn't even show a highlight of cats landing on Brandon Adams. There are no highlights of cats landing on Brandon Adams. How do you give this fight to this guy? So, the highlights of the ball shots. So, I've been in situations where you get robbed and you just sit there and you're just like, so yeah, I exhaled after I heard all 3, and it felt good, but I wasn't sure.
99, 91, 98, 92, and 98, 92. So yeah, they did the right thing, but I agree. I was looking right at you on the screen.
Yeah.
What's funny is like, so when Manny came up to us, Manny shook our hands and he told Brandon Adams, he's like, that was a hell of a fight, Brandon. And the way that he said it was like, you knew that he was giving Brandon his flowers, right? And super appreciative of that too. Obviously I'm there too. So, but you just never know. I mean, this is boxing. People get robbed all the time, and you never know. But thank goodness they got it right. I think Brandon had to shove it down their throat. Hey, listen, there's a bias going on with the commentators, right? Like, I heard it. The thing is, like, I haven't watched the whole fight as far as the corner, but I watched they cut it where they cut all the corners out. So I did watch that. And I heard the commentators, oh, Brandon would land like 12 or 14 shots, and then Boychuk would land an uppercut. Oh, hell of an uppercut. And I'm like sitting there scratching my head, like, bro, this guy just got caught like 6 or 7 times, in 2 sequences, and we're just gonna act like that's not going on. So, Andre Ward, but I think Brandon's performance was so overwhelming. I noticed this too with the cameras. Is another interesting thing. At first, the cameras were on me every other round, and then towards after 5. They just started going all on me. And this is another interesting. When they went to go read, this is another thing that kind of cued me that we won. When they went to go read that we'd won, I saw how the camera was positioned on Team Adams and not on Boacek. And I said, oh, we got it. So
Yeah.
Even they knew, man. Even they knew.
Yeah, we had to force them to know.
I think your assistant, when they read the first one and they saw that it was so wide, he's like, yeah. So, but I was also looking at you. I was like, okay, he's not celebrating until the 3rd one, and he hears the name.
Yeah, I'm jaded. Boxing's giving me PTSD. I feel PTSD for a lot of these people get robbed. I mean, there's, you've seen some pretty bad ones out there. I mean, it's so bad that none of them come to my mind because I've been conditioned so much to accept it. But yeah, robberies are. I'm sure there'll be one that's really, really bad, and we're all, oh, we need to change boxing. I don't know how to do it. But if you come in as a B-side, my best advice to you is to fight your life out. Like, fight like this is going to be your last opportunity. Because if the mechanism can, especially for a guy like Brandon's older. A lot of young guys, like Xander Reyes is a name that came up in the last couple of days. It's like, oh, Xander doesn't want to fight us. Give me a break, like. I know that they would say no to that. I mean, Xander, if you're out there and you're listening to this, your team, Team Adams is certainly open for that fight. No problem.
Let's stay on that. Let's stay on that. 154. You mentioned Virgil. You mentioned Xander now. There's Murtasaliev, there's Fundora, there's Thurman, there's Lubin, there's Boots.
Mhm.
What
All these names.
what do you want? What do you guys want next?
We don't. We just want an opportunity to be on a platform that Brandon could be seen as a main event. Um, if that's with Matchroom, if that's with Top Rank, if that's with PBC, if that's back with Turkey and Riyadh. Oh yeah, we want to fight. I believe a performance like that deserves a name that everybody knows. All those names that you mentioned, we're open to. It's not like obviously too. It's like Brandon, if you guys knew, thank God for the bonus, right? Brandon made a fight of the night bonus, but Brandon certainly didn't walk away with what Boyacek had walked away, and maybe you can say he's coming off a loss, and although it was a controversial loss, and Boyacek is obviously their guy. He's with Tom Loeffler and 360 and TKO are obviously all in cahoots with each other. So, I get it, but I don't want to see if somebody's going to have to come and pay Brandon Adams his worth now. And that's just, he's earned it, man. Like, I'm not saying some crazy amount of money. We wouldn't price ourselves out of any fights, but, make an offer that he's earned and makes sense. And, all those things make sense. So.
And Trevor, obviously, we know that Brandon stays in shape. How quickly do you guys want to see him come back? End of the year, early 2026? Where do you want to see him come back?
His manager asked me that this morning. I think with Brandon, the most important thing is just taking care of himself. Listen, Boyacek also landed a lot of shots.
Yeah.
It's not like Sergey didn't have some shit going on. I mean, that's why it was such a great fight. Sergey was landing too as well. I mean, it wasn't landing as much as Brandon was, but things were landed. It was a very hard physical fight. Sergey is like RoboCop, bro? like I've come to destroy you. And Brandon, looking at the health of my fighter and so forth, I just wanted to relax. I was going to tell him to go to Costa Rica or Hawaii, Puerto Rico, wherever he wants to go. Go to the tropicals. Maybe he wants to go to the sun. I don't know, but decompress. And ideally, I'd like us to be up in January or February. So if something makes sense, a fight like that was, that was a real fight. But like I said, Brandon, because he was so dedicated going to the body, had to do things defensively that were always going to put him a little bit more at risk because it was such a targeted attack to the body. So, he got caught with shots, but he knows how to roll the shot, tuck the chin, put the head down where you take it on top, get a hand on the glove and so forth, take a little bit off the shot. So, but to say that he came, unscathed, yeah, relatively good, definitely unscathed compared to Sergey, but it was still a real fight. I don't want him in the gym for a month. So after that, I think we can all, recoup. And if something's on the horizon in 90 days after that, which would probably put us around Thanksgiving, November 1st. Yeah, definitely that all makes sense for late January, early February. So,
Chris, we don't have much time on the air, so start thinking about your last few questions here.
Trev, obviously, we're a great moment for you guys. A huge win, a great win. Bonus, like Gio mentioned. We talked about earlier before the podcast. We were able to see Brandon's personality, his quirkiness, his funniness. Can we see more of that?
Yeah, I mean, that is Brandon in his everyday life. Brandon is one of the most humble, funniest, animated. He loves pro wrestling. He loves anime. One of the most giving people in the gym that you ever see. He looks after a whole bunch of kids. He keeps them entertained. I know when we were there, it was so cute because the kids knew him because he had the old man wig on. They're running up to him. Certainly the press conference for the weigh-in was absolutely amazing where he has a wig on and it shows his. Yeah, I think that Brandon, I want Brandon to kind of show his real character. He's just this big, boast, gregarious, laughter guy, and it has a huge heart. But we kept on saying when he got in that ring, he had to be another guy. And that's what you saw. He had to turn that switch on. He had to put the killer on, which sometimes I think Brandon was able to do at this time where there was no more nice guy. He was just literally going after you. But no, that part outside of him, I love it. I loved him in the wig. I mean, I love that we were able to deliver, you know. So yeah, I think it was great.
And my final question, Trev, obviously Gio said some names. If you could pick the top 3 names, with one being the number one, I'm guessing it's Virgil. You could correct me if I'm wrong. What are the top 3 names that make sense for him, career-wise, business-wise, for your fighter, for Brandon?
I mean, everybody with a belt, basically. But stylistically, I just think Virgil's the best. Like, I think that's just a gift for boxing. I like if Brandon can box, Brandon could fight you, Brandon can go inside, Brandon can go mid range, Brandon can go long range, Brandon could jive, he can, shake, he can dress down in defense, he high guard you. And Virgil has a lot of that shit too. He's super, super multifaceted in his approach. Virg can do like a lot of things very good, and maybe very, very, very good on the inside. And Brandon is very, 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 very good on the inside. So I mean, shit. Why wouldn't you? I would love to see it. But that's just like, even if I had nothing to do with Brandon Adams, not his trainer, man, like that's the fight for me. I just get geeked out on because, guys that are positioning, distance, timing, craft, attacks of the body, cerebral. I mean, to me, Verge is the guy out there. Boots is another guy, obviously, too. Boots has a lot of other variables. A lot of people don't want to say his name. I look at that matchup, and of course, I've thought about that too. I mean, I like the fights. Of course, Xander would be the way to get not to say it like that, but Xander would be the maybe path of least resistance to get the title.
100%. Yes, 100%.
So, and I'm not trying to be mean or anything. What's funny is nobody wants to talk about Fundora either. It's like, I'm in these positions. I've thought about Fundora. Nobody wants to call him out. But I mean, shit. It's Brandon's sort of proven that that any of these guys, that we're going to figure out a way. And I mean that from our hearts. Like, we're going to figure out a way to beat these guys. And if we don't beat these guys, we're going to give you a goddamn night of boxing where we're going to give you a treat anyways. But we're going to give the fans what they want, which is an incredible fight. So I look at all those top-rated guys like that. So no one specifically, but the Virgil fight, just like they're both around the same height. I just love that fight. Just would love to see it gel together.
Before we get out of here, we must talk the main event. Canelo Crawford. Obviously, you've been close to the Canelo team in recent years. You also have spoken very highly of Terrence Crawford. What were your thoughts on the main event? If you got a chance to watch it or rewatch it or whatnot?
Yeah, I definitely watched it. My thoughts. I think that there's a passing of the guard. It's weird because Terrence is a little bit older than Canelo, and Terrence has definitely proven himself to be a generational great. If there were any doubts, I used to, prior saying, well, what Hall of Famer is Terrence Crawford beating? Well, he just beat the one, right? So, of course they've shared opponents like Amir Khan. I think one comes to mind, but Terrence's approach, Terrence's craft, Terrence's patterns, which I think were adopted by the Floyd Mayweather camp and added with the twist of Terrence and Bomac. Terrence's ability to be there, to not be there, to settle down in moments and fight, and actually, most of the times when they did fight, actually finish the exchanges, which is very important for a fighter when they decide to sit down in the whole range, to be the last one that's punching and landing the shots, even if the other one landed. Canelo landed, which would happen sometimes. Terrence is always was the one to finish exchanges. He did his thing, man. He's just like, I knew that Bud was great, and I studied Bud, but I'm a Canelo guy. Like, being around Canelo and being around Eddie Reynoso, I tell this to everybody. It's like I had a 10,000 piece puzzle, and they helped me with the last 1,000 pieces that went in the middle that were very important to understand the whole puzzle. As far as their approach or distance, the things that I learned being around Canelo team is being around Eddie, being around Chepo, being around, Canelo himself. So I got mad love for them. I'm always going to have mad love for them. But shit, Bomac and Bud, man, they had their night. So looked incredible.
Trev, was there anything you feel like Canelo could have done different? Any mini adjustments he could have done, or do you feel like he was just a step and it's just father time?
I think that I would have, everything is like in theory, right? So it's like ridiculous because like I said, Eddie's been a big influence over me. But the Canelo that I like is Canelo that feints more, Canelo that isn't always starting with the lead hook power shot or the lead hook to the body, a Canelo that has more variables off of what I say the same look. So like if I'm feigning right here and then I'm going to hook and I'm feigning and then I'm maybe one toeing and I'm feigning and I'm crossing, doing different things off of his approach to go in there and build off the look. I think Canelo kind of be one dimensional and curry his process and not mix up his way that he was approaching Terrence when he was walking him down, and maybe bending at the waist and having good positioning and good distance, but not doing enough to actually be able to find the range to shoot in. And, was always to me being a little bit too power hungry. And Bud was there. And of course, Bud caught a couple shots, but he kept resetting the distance, often taking a slide and a half back or 2 slides back, and Canelo would come right back into him and he'd catch him with a clean counter, maybe rip 2 shots and turn him again. And it was, I just wish that Canelo was more exponential, more of a mix up on the way that he was trying to find range, and not so, I don't, it's hard because it's hard for me to criticize these guys because I have so much respect for them, but not as predictable. So
with this win, Trev, do you feel like Terrence Bud Crawford reaches the echelon of a Floyd Mayweather? Has he earned that?
Floyd, man, when you go back and look at his career, he fought an incredible amount of Hall of Famers, and to me, that's when you look at same thing with Canelo's career. Saying when you look, Bud just beat Canelo, was absolutely a Hall of Famer, but Canelo was also Triple G was one of the most avoided middleweights of all time, and there's a draw, maybe controversial draw between Canelo and Triple G, but there's also two what I think absolute wins against Triple G. Win against Shane Mosley. A win against Miguel Cotto. Shane Mosley and Miguel Cotto are both multi-divisional champions that they beat the alpha males of the alpha males. Bud is probably the first time he fought what I would consider the alpha males of the alpha males, guys that multi-divisional champions. Floyd Mayweather fought a lot of them. You know what I'm saying? Like Manny Pacquiao had 8 divisions. So to me, there's a difference between Floyd's career and Bud's career. But I'm a boxing guy, man. As far as what they're able to do in the ring, when Canelo said that he thought that Bud Crawford was better than Floyd, I could see where Canelo's coming from. But as far as accolades and achievements go, no, Floyd's on a different level. You just got to look at, the guy beat an incredible amount of Hall of Famers. Jannar Hernandez is a Hall of Famer, Miguel Cotto, Shane Mosley, Manny Pacquiao,
Oscar De La Hoya.
Oscar De La Hoya. And then these guys all have multiple, especially those guys, not Jannar, but they had multiple divisions. So, different level of a fighter. And then we all have to be, if we're really boxing guys and we really love this shit, you got to default to accolades and achievements and really look at it for what it is, and not just be like, oh yeah, he's better than Floyd. No, he wasn't. Not with achievements. So.
And Trev, Canelo mentioned, that the mind wanted, but the body wasn't responding. Even at 34, 35, do you feel like is it the miles? Is it him starting at 15 and it's just too many wars, too many battles throughout the year?
There's 10 fights that are on record, is what Canelo told me. There's, I think, officially 20 or 25 fights more than what Bud has. I think, too, with Canelo, like this is my bias, and this was something with Brandon Adams that we did because Brandon is 36 and he just had an incredible performance. We have a day. I'm very mindful of how Brandon trains. We split him up to 2 or 3 times a day. There's a big emphasis on taking care of his body. A big emphasis on rehabilitation, right? Like cryo, or like I said, hyperbaric chamber, all these things, red light therapy, all these things that make him feel better. Sometimes being around the Canelo camp and knowing what they're capable of, because I've been in like 5 camps, seeing that they're sparring 4-minute rounds. I've seen Canelo do 4-minute rounds, 30-second rest, 15 rounds, at 7,000 feet in the air elevation. Like that work ethic sometimes, like to get you in shape with the aging fighter, there has to be a little bit of a curve where like there's a bit of a vortex where you're like, okay, do we continue to do this or do we taper? And because he's already can fight, so I'm not saying maybe his body is still there and maybe he didn't feel it as much because a possible. I think it's a very genuine question. It's not coming from a bad place. Like I said, there's no criticism. Canelo Camp, I'm very inspired by them and look up to them and so forth. But maybe with an aging fighter, you have to be careful not to overtrain them. They're not young men anymore. And he's definitely has a heavy work demand load. And I've seen that and it's got him there. But at some point, like everything else, like I'm not a football guy, but the quarterback that the famous one from the Patriots. You guys know what I'm talking about?
Tom Brady.
Thank you. I was
Yes,
gonna say
sir.
the tall white one. Like you see, like his approach as he aged is specifically with like making his muscles more malleable, not doing.
Oh, they just cut our stream, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry about that. Chris, are you still there? I think Chris is gone too. Let me see if we can get them back on air. Give me 1 second. Quick commercial break. Hey, what's up, fellas? We're back, kinda. We're back. We're trying to get Trevor back on, but if not, no worries. Well, we still wanted to mention that Naoya Inoue fight, Chris. If you have any last words on the Canelo fight, and then we can do Inoue Akhmadaliev, and then we'll see if Trevor can hop back on. If not, we've been on the air for about an hour or so.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, yeah. No, once again, just obviously we've been talking a lot about Canelo. A lot of it was because, you know, that is the face of boxing. Hispanics and the Mexican American fan base are the ones that that pour their monies into the sport. So it was a deflating night for the Canelo fan, but we got to give Bud his props. We got to give him his flowers. Again, I don't feel like it was an all right dominating, but he did just enough to outbox, to outpoint, to frustrate the face of boxing. So kudos to Bud, doing his thing, showed that he can take a punch, showed that, he used every single one of his abilities in that ring. And yeah, man, he proved a lot of people wrong, including us. Again, we didn't think a smaller fighter can unseat the face of boxing, the undisputed 168-pound king, and Bud did just that.
Yeah, I was surprised he was able to take some of those punches. It didn't seem like he had an answer to that left to the body, but he took it well. As Big Bro mentioned earlier, he took a couple overhand rights to the forehead, and he did his thing. I think him being the underdog, him going 12 was already going to be a win, but he made it. I thought it was a close fight. I think he made it close enough to where the judges were scoring a lot of those rounds for him. Netflix damn near gave him every round. Not sure how, but yeah, that's Turkey's boy, right? We mentioned it, and all the commentators and the unofficial scorer, they were all hoping he would get that W. But yeah, I think also Clyde mentioned if something about Canelo being younger. I think if both men were younger, we would have saw a better fight. I think we kind of saw like a slower pace fight. Obviously, 34, 35 Canelo, Bud 38 years old. But it was a chess match, and it was good enough. I had a lot of mixed reviews from different people. Some people saying that it wasn't exciting, that it was boring. Some people liked it. So, but yeah, I wish they would have fought earlier. Maybe it would have been even better. But man, these guys got paid. 70,000 people there at the Raiders Stadium. Uh, 40 plus million views on Netflix. It didn't crash this time. It didn't crash.
Yeah.
Shout out to them. I don't know why they crashed our stream right now, but yeah, live the Canelo fight didn't crash. The card was decent. Maybe we can talk about it next week. But yeah, that's all I have on that. I know we kind of rushed over it. Oh, Trevor's back. Hey, what's going on, Matt?
Come here. This kid his name is Matthew Jacinto. He's actually on No Boxing No Life card in Ensenada. He'll be fighting on October 4th. It's his third fight with No Boxing No Life.
Third fight, yes, sir.
Third fight. He's coming out of San Diego. He's definitely someone to watch out for. He fights at 126. I put him in the hard sparring with Azad. Who's the kid from Mexico? We put him in there with some of Benavidez's kids and Knucklehead. He definitely he definitely did his thing. He's a good kid. Follow him. What's your name?
Rooster _SOG.
Yeah. So October 4th, Ensenada.
Nice. Say that one more time, bro. So the chat can check you out after the podcast.
Rooster _SOG.
Rooster _SOG. There you guys have it. And Trev, right now we're kind of just wrapping up the Canelo versus Bud Crawford. Obviously, one of the biggest takeaways is how Bud took the shots, how Bud filled up to that frame, how it didn't slow him down, how he used the ring, used his boxing IQ. What were you most impressed with from Bud Crawford?
Boxing IQ. I mean, he's a master of his distance. I mean, some of the positioning war, some of the distance that going on in the first 3 rounds, and then his ability to break off of what wasn't working for him. Looking at the positioning early on in the first 2 or 3 rounds, I think Bud actually wanted to walk down Canelo, but it wasn't going to happen. They both are very, Inoue just had a fight like this too with I can't say his name, the kid from is it usually I'm not gonna say, the kid, I'm talking about the Inoue. another Inoue that just fought
Akhmadaliev, MJ.
Yeah. Great positioning fight, great footwork to watch two guys and the way that they line up with each other. And I saw a lot of that in the third. And then I seen Bud just be like, hey, guess what? I'm gonna go to plan B. And he did. And that's when I seen him get very Floyd-esque, see patterns that I'd seen other fighters give Canelo a hard time. There's a little Lara in there and so forth. So it was definitely like, you know, it was a treat to watch, and that goes back to Bud's IQ.
Obviously, one of the things is his movement, his lateral movement, just his, even at 30, near 38, were you impressed with just that movement? As a trainer, let's say you were in Canelo's corner. Obviously, we saw that Canelo was going to the body to try to slow him down. What else could he have done to slow it down, or is it just, what is that good condition-wise?
It's not just like for fighters, not just conditioning. It's just their ability to understand the range of their opponent at all times and put themselves in positions where they could work from, or they know maybe the opponent enters their positioning, or that they can bait from, antagonize with, their body language and so forth. He's just a master at that. There was times where I thought maybe the movement was a little excessive, and you kind of want to see him fight. But Canelo could have maybe practiced a little bit more theater and said, "Hey, let's go," yada yada yada. And he kind of didn't. Some of the things that we saw that happened in the Skull fight kind of replayed out, and there was definitely moments where you can see frustration with Canelo. Like I said, the Canelo I prefer is a lot more patient. I think Canelo he definitely went out there with a chip on his shoulder. He definitely has something to prove. So when you have something to prove like that, that's you got it. You kind of already you're fighting the third man, which is sometimes your ego, versus just being able to assess what's going on in there and taking it from there. So let me put my phone on do not disturb because I keep getting calls.
Real quick before we get out of here, you did mention Inoue. That was our last topic of the day. Now Inoue, 31-0, 27 KOs. Didn't get a KO in this one against Muradjan Akhmadaliev, but he did win a unanimous decision. Pretty much won every round. What were your thoughts on that, real quickly, Trevor?
I mean, I loved it. It was like watching, whatever, two masters of their craft get down. One of them is just more mastered, which is Inoue. I also like the fact that you're showing that Inoue can't knock everybody out. So it's like, hey, guess what? If you're a really responsible guy and you really are really responsible with your approach and you really know what's going on there, and I'm hoping to see more fights like that with Inoue. I mean, I couldn't help but think about like Junto Nakatani in a way and what that would look like, watching this fight. So you gotta take those things into account, and it's definitely one of those things that's like, that it comes to play, and you really, 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 really have to admire the nuances of it. So it's one of those fights that if you're a boxing guy, they're not always supposed to, it's like jazz music. It's like Coltrane. So
Chris, last question.
Yeah.
You hear it. They're blowing up Trevor's phone, man. Last question.
For me, final question, Trevor. Obviously, like you said, you're a big, you have huge respect for Canelo and Team Canelo, and obviously you've been in there in camps with them. We obviously know that Canelo says that he's still in love with the sport. He still wants to continue. How does the Canelo bounce back, and what kind of fights make sense for him to finish off his career? Maybe three or four more fights, I think he's alluded to, before he heads off and starts a golfing career.
It's hard because Canelo has to kind of reassess, right, and see where he's at with all of it. And if he sees where he's at with all of it, and he understands that, hey, I still have more fight in me, I still want things that I want to do, but he's done so much already in his career, so it's almost unrealistic to continue to ask him to do more and more and more and more. It's like, look at what he's done. Now, if he's a phenomenal athlete. He's sometimes Jordan, these kind of guys like that, they desire more and more and more, so they're going to go out there and they're going to seek to do more and more. That's up to him. I think once he assesses that, he could figure out what direction he wants to go in. So it's hard for me to talk on his behalf because I don't, I don't know where he's at. That's, I'd love to see Canelo continue to fight. It's like if you had a chance to see Miles Davis, perform, or Vicente Fernandez perform, like, who wouldn't want to do that? You want to see these greats before they're gone. He's the greatest of our era, and Bud in many ways too. I think just proved himself to be great as well. So.
Okay, Gio, final question.
Yeah, no, more than anything, big congratulations on this huge event, huge win with Brandon the Cannon Adams. Hopefully we see you guys on the big screen again. It was a pleasure to watch it. Thank you for the great, beautiful boxing that we witnessed that night. Truly, as a boxing fan, I appreciate it, Trevor.
Yeah, thank you guys, and thank you for appreciating it. So.
And Trev, actually, I'm gonna go to Moreno Valley tomorrow and interview Robert Garcia. Any message you want me to send him his way? Respectfully, let's get it on.
Respectfully, I just think that Brandon Adams and Virgil Ortiz together would be just like an incredible fight to watch. So it would be one of those fights for the fans. So
awesome. Now, again, Trevor, congratulations. We'll message Brandon again. What a huge win. I think there was no doubt in our minds, and the fans' minds, and the commentators' mind who won that match. And man, to get a bonus is just like you said, cherry on the top. So congratulations, guys. We know that there's big things coming in 2026 for you guys.
Thank you. I appreciate you guys. We can't wait to get back in there and put on another performance.
Big shout out to everybody.
I got one come back too on October 18th at Thunder Studios in Long Beach. So if you have a chance, come check him out. Got him October 4th, and I got a kid September 27th in Pomona. Sam Izak for DMG. So
there you have it. Big shout out to Iceman checking in, Big Bro, Clyde, Kyle. Shout out to all you guys on the live chat. We appreciate it. We'll be back soon. Chris.
For me, just thank you guys for being a part of, again, a huge event. Obviously, Canelo, Crawford, huge event on Netflix. I think 41 million viewers saw this whole event. Obviously, Trevor and Brandon Adams, knowing about this fight, but to get it done and to get it done in a big stage, amazing work. Can't wait to see you guys again. So, guys, appreciate it, and let's move on to the next. Awesome.
Thank you. Have a great night.
Have a great night. Thank you very much. See you guys. Peace.
Peace.
Hola amigos, soy Juan Francisco Gallo Estrada. Quiero mandar un saludo para mis amigos de Contra las Cuerdas. Échenle muchas ganas. Un abrazo, muchas bendiciones.
Shout out to Against the Ropes. You know what mine is? Let's box, bitches. It's almost fight night.
Shout out to Against the Ropes. Thank you for the support. Keep doing your thing. You're doing a great job. So thank you and best wishes.
Against the Ropes. Huge shout out to Against the Ropes. Against the Ropes.
Shout out to Against the Ropes. Thank you guys for the interview, and hope to see you guys soon.
Against the Ropes, always doing the right thing.
Shout out to Against the Ropes, man. I appreciate you guys for having me, taking the time out y'all day.
Against the Ropes, #1.
Freddie Roach.
Thank you very much.